BTS News. The night wasn't fully dark yet when the news spread like wildfire. Across all forums, every ARMY community channel, even major platforms like Weverse, X, and TikTok, one name suddenly vanished from the world tour lineup announced 2 months ago: Park Jimin. There was no warning, no statement, no explanation. Even fans who usually get backstage leaks from crew members looked completely confused. Because Jimin's absence wasn't just a matter of not being mentioned, it was like he'd been erased entirely, as if he had never been part of the tour from the start. But the world knows. The world remembers. The world cannot forget. BTS is set to begin Resonance, the world tour, in New York in just 12 days. The most ambitious tour in years, dubbed a reconciliation concert, to reunite members and fans in the most intimate and grand format. With all the anticipation and buzz that had built up since the first teaser dropped, no one expected that one of the core performers, Park Jimin, would not be part of it. And this is where it all began. At around 10:42 p.m. Seoul time, BTS's official Weverse account suddenly changed its homepage banner. Previously, it showed the 3 active members, Jungkook, Taehyung, and Jimin, the trio expected to lead BTS's new stage era this year. But the new banner only displayed 2 silhouettes. Jimin was no longer there. Within 2 hours of that change, the hashtag #WhereIsJimin trended at #1 worldwide. Fans were panicking. The official account remained silent. Media cameras turned to the HYB building in Yongsan, hoping to catch a glimpse or sudden appearance of the missing idol. But it wasn't Jimin who showed up. It was Kim Taehyung. Wearing a long black coat and an emotionless expression, V stepped out of a black van around 11:07 p.m. Reporters shouted in unison, "Is it true Jimin won't join the world tour?" But as if bound by something bigger than company policy, Taehyung walked straight into the building without a word. Cameras briefly caught something in his hand, a small, neatly folded, slightly crumpled piece of paper, like it had been gripped too tightly. Shortly after, another black van arrived. This time, it was Jungkook. His hair was wet, either from rain or sweat, but his face looked like it had weathered an emotional storm. His eyes were puffy, no mask, no hoodie to cover his identity. Jungkook walked fast, almost running, into the same building Taehyung had just entered. Fans began connecting the worrying dots. Something was happening behind the scenes. And it wasn't just about Jimin choosing not to join the tour. A few hours before the banner incident, something actually slipped under the public radar. Jimin, usually very active on Weverse, had been completely silent for almost 2 full days. His last message? A short note. "I hope you're happy, no matter what happens. You know I always love you." A sweet sentence, but it sounded like a goodbye. Those deeply attuned to Jimin's behavior recognized it wasn't casual. The emotional tone, the long silence afterward, it all felt like a sign that something major was going on. Something that made it impossible for him to stand on stage at 2 a.m. A HYB staff member, who wished to remain anonymous, contacted a local media outlet and gave an off-the-record statement. They said Jimin was not emotionally stable enough to go on tour, not due to physical illness, but due to internal pressures that couldn't be publicly explained yet. But what kind of pressure could cause Park Jimin, the one who always forced a smile in front of cameras, to finally break? And who would replace him? That morning, though the Seoul sun was bright, the mood inside HYB was still heavy. In the main lobby, Jungkook was seen leaving the meeting room first. He was hunched over, hugging his jacket, holding 2 phones in his hands. His face was blank. CCTV from fan sites captured the moment he paused at the exit, took a deep breath, and stared at one phone screen for several seconds. Word began spreading that a decision had been made. Jimin would not perform in the opening tour, and to fill his position as lead vocalist in several key songs, only 2 names were deemed strong enough: Jungkook and V. But the problem? Neither of them seemed willing to accept the role. Not because they weren't capable, but because they knew that position belonged to someone irreplaceable. Fans began to realize this tour would be emotional, not just from the songs, but from the visible emptiness on stage. Time went on, and still no official statement. Until finally, at 5:27 p.m., Jungkook appeared live, alone, in a room with white curtains behind him. He said just one sentence: "Army, I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this without him." And the live ended. Just 43 seconds. The next day, a video leaked from the rehearsal room. It showed Taehyung and Jungkook practicing choreography for Filter and Lie, two of Jimin's most iconic solo tracks. Armies trembled, not only because their performances were breathtaking, but because their faces looked deeply emotional. At the end of the song, as the final beat stopped, Taehyung paused and stared at the floor. Jungkook walked over and softly said, "I'm not ready either," but there was no time to be unready. The New York concert would begin in just a week. And now, the biggest question filled everyone's mind. Who will fully take Jimin's place on stage? An internal document leaked to the public showed that HYB was restructuring the set list. Some full-member songs would be cut, others reworked into solos or duets. It was even rumored that a special track from Jimin's solo album would be performed, but not by Jungkook or Taehyung, to be by someone not yet named. Could it be possible that Jimin himself chose who would take his place? On August 7th, 2 days after Jimin's absence made headlines, the world was shaken by a photo. A fan caught a rare moment at a cafe in Itaewon. The photo showed Jimin sitting alone in a corner, wearing a big cap and hoodie. In front of him, a coffee cup left untouched. In his hand, a small open notebook. He was writing, with his left hand covering part of his face, but his eyes in that photo didn't lie. He was crying. The timestamp on the photo read 2:13 p.m. And just an hour later, Jungkook was seen leaving HYB with a large suitcase, heading to the airport. They weren't together, but they seemed to be trying to understand each other from a distance. One day before the concert, Weverse finally released an official statement. Jimin would not appear at the opening show due to urgent, unavoidable personal reasons. No further detail, no promise of when he'd return, just one added line. His parts will be alternately performed by BTS members Kim Taehyung and Jungkook. The public exploded. Mixed reactions. Some were thankful to still see two key BTS members perform. But many felt the concert wouldn't be the same without Jimin. But there was one thing the agency didn't mention. Who would perform Promise, Jimin's most personal and iconic song? Until finally, the night arrived. New York. August 12, 2025. Madison Square Garden. Every seat filled. Purple light flooded the air. When the main screen began showing member faces one by one, Jimin's name was not among them. But during the 14th song, something happened. The lights went completely out. The crowd fell silent. The instrumental of Promise began, and on the big screen, a video appeared. Not live. A recording.it showed Jimin sitting in a studio, wearing headphones, softly singing the song. His real voice, his eyes glistening. And in the final moment of the video, Jimin looked directly into the camera, smiled, and said, "Take care of them for me. I'll be back. But for now, let them take my place. Because my heart is still here." The lights turned back on. And when Jungkook and Taehyung walked onto the stage in simple white outfits, the world knew. They weren't replacing Jimin. They were protecting his place, protecting his heart, protecting the promise they likely made long before this concert was even planned. And that night's concert wasn't just a performance, that it was a celebration of love, that of struggle, that of sacrifice, and a promise that Jimin will return. But not until every wound is healed. Not until all the hidden tears have been shed backstage. And not until his brothers, V and Jungkook, keep the stage alive, as if Jimin was still there forever.